Hello, and welcome to the newest episode of Immigration and Mobility Decoded. One of your hosts, Eric Prado, and we have a great episode coming up. But we have a new format being introduced for this particular episode ahead of the main conversation. Very excited to introduce our new co-host and new partner on this podcast, Cecily Nelson. Cecily, hello, and welcome to your first intro on Immigration and Mobility Decoded.
Great. Thanks, Eric. I'm excited to be a part of it and looking forward to continuing with some great conversations in the future.
Very excited to have you on. And so, I guess Cecily, since you're new to the show, new to the audience, why don't you take a few minutes just to talk a little bit more about yourself and your familiarity with global immigration, global mobility, all that fun stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So, Cecily Nelson, looking forward to being a part of the podcast, as I mentioned. I've been with Envoy Global for 5 years now. So, Eric, I do think you have me beat if I'm not mistaken.
By a year, yeah.
Okay, so we'll take note on that. But Eric does have me beat there. And I work on more of the business development side at Envoy Global. So I focus on identifying and closing new business, and then also nurturing that relationship with existing clients. So I kind of have that twofold piece of my current role with Envoy Global. And then also focusing on, another key part of my role is building brand awareness for Envoy Global. So the marketing team does a fantastic job of that, and that makes my job a lot easier. We're in such a niche market, which presents a lot of opportunity in the space. So continuing to build that brand awareness through the podcast, that's a great way, as well as different in-market events that I attend on a regular basis. So how can we continue to get people familiar with Envoy Global and the services that we offer? And then, within these 5 years at Envoy Global, I've seen, even just in that short amount of time, the evolution of the immigration space. I think that, that's a theme that we hear with a lot of these different conversations is the constant change in the industry. So I think that that's something that I've really enjoyed being a part of, is seeing that evolution. And I think that there's a lot to come in the industry, and even, digital transformations. That was kind of a part of this conversation that we had with Shiv today for the podcast. But I also just think that there is, a constant way to gain information in the space and continuing to be learning and educating ourselves. So looking forward again to joining Eric with Immigration and Mobility Decoded.
Awesome. Appreciate you introing yourself to viewers. Very much looking forward to having you on the show. And so I guess, moving forward, what can the viewers, expect? There will be times in interviews where Cecily and I are interviewing a great guest. Other times we might trade off. So there might be an interview where it's just me, or there's an interview that's just Cecily. So we have a great lineup of guests coming up in the future, starting with today's episode, where we chatted with Shivam Malhotra. He oversees the global mobility services at Aprio. He has an extensive background in global mobility. He's built quite a few programs from the ground up. And so that was one area that we talked about with him during our initial conversation, as well as his journey in global mobility. He has an awesome background where he actually started as a software developer and then moved over into global mobility. Cecily, did anything else kind of stand out to you during that chat?
Yeah, I think that Shiv gave us a lot of insight, exactly as you mentioned, into building global mobility programs within different industries. I think that one of the key elements that continually came up in the conversation was the importance of staying flexible. So I think that flexibility is really important because of the constant changes within the industry. We also touched on how AI plays a role in the industry. So that was also something that we weaved into the conversation. That's been a hot topic. So I think that touching on that was great. And then in general, Shiv did a great job of explaining a little bit his viewpoint on the evolution of global mobility. So that's something that you have to look forward to in today's conversation.
Well said. Well said. And before we get to that conversation, your daily, if you wish, your daily reminder that if you're not already, to follow Envoy Global on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. But if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, definitely give us a follow so you can be alerted to when new episodes are released and listen to these great conversations. And with that, here is our chat with Shivam Malhotra. And welcome to another episode of Immigration and Mobility Decoded. I'm your host, Eric Prado, and I'm very excited today to welcome Shivam Malhotra, a partner, national practice leader in global mobility services at Aprio. Shivam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Eric. I'm really excited to be here and speak with you.
Very excited to speak with you as well. Shivam, or as I might call you today, Shiv. That's all right. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yep. I think everyone knows me by Shiv. First, they start off with Shivam, and then it always goes to Shiv afterwards.
All right, perfect. Perfect. I'll go with Shiv then. So, Shiv, we are recording this towards the end of July. We have been discussing this over the last few weeks. So, very excited to have you on and just talk more about your career and your learnings, your insights on global mobility. But first, I just wanted to just ask you how your summer is going, things that you've been up to, and what you got planned for the rest of the summer.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, summer has been going really, really well. It's moving quicker than I wanted it to. Weather's been great. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia, so we've been blessed with some super hot weather. I've made quite a few trips in the summer, vacations with my family. So a little bit about myself. I'm a new dad of 9 months. I have a baby girl. So it's been quite the adjustment over the past year. We have taken her to several places within these 9 months already. I've gone to Mexico, I've gone to Texas, gone to California, Florida, New York. I mean, a lot of vacations, a lot of fun with the little one. Traveling has been different, right? With the baby on board, it's a lot. You get a lot of sympathy. I'd say that you don't really have to wait in any lines as you board the plane. But it's been a great overall summer. Got a lot of time with my family. Busy at work, but you always carve out time for family, so I can't complain at all. Got another month left, so a few more trips that have planned coming up in August, and then we get to the grind of the fall after that. So that.
Definitely, yes, that grind of the fall. But congrats on the newest addition to your family. That is very lovely to hear, and I'm very jealous of all the trips that you've been taking.
How's your summer been, though? What have you been up to?
My summer's been going good. I'm in Chicago, so a little bit north of you. Just been hanging out, going to the beach. I've been doing a few regional trips, nothing crazy this summer. So I've just been going to like Wisconsin. Got a wedding in Kansas City next week. Things like that. Most of my trips, actually, funny enough, are not until the fall. I'm going to my buddy's wedding in Cabo in October. Nice. And then I went to the University of Illinois, and they are playing the University of Oregon in late October. So I'm going to be going out to Oregon for that game. So yeah, most of my stuff is into the fall, oddly enough. But nice. I'm not here. The show's not about me. The show's about you today. So Shiv, I want to ask you more about your background in global mobility, and just how did you get started in global mobility?
Absolutely. Yep. So funny story how I got started. I mean, I went to college for accounting and finance, double majored in both. So actually, when I came out of college, I actually landed a job with this top software company where I ended up doing a lot of IT work, a lot of coding, a lot of programming. Had to learn a lot of it from scratch because I didn't go to school for it. But it was a quick job that I got out of college, very reputable company. So I said, let me take it. They offered travel for like 51 weeks out of the year. I was always traveling, always on the move at the client side. So, a young kid out of college, racking up the miles, racking up the points. I mean, everything is paid for, right? You're touring the world. What could be better, right? At the age of 22. So I was enjoying that part of it, but the actual job itself, like behind the screens and the coding and all the implementation was not something I was really fond of. I stuck it out for some time, just to reap the benefits and the rewards of all the traveling. So it was fun. But then one day I was actually working out with my neighbor at a gym nearby, and she was a manager at a big four firm in global mobility. Me and her were just, just exchanging conversation, pleasantries, working out together. And then she's like, you're never around. I never see you around. Like, what do you do? And then, I talked about what I do and how I travel all the time. And she's like, do you really enjoy this? Because you went to school, even she went to school for accounting and finance. And she's like, you went to school for accounting and finance. How'd you end up in IT and how do you enjoy it? And I was quite honest. I said, got a great job out of college, paid well, couldn't complain about it, but it's not something I wanted to do with my career. And then she's like, our group is hiring. We have a lot of openings. If you're interested, I could put you in touch with one of the partners and, see how things work out. No promises, but if you're looking to make that change early on in your career, Big Four is always hiring. So let me get you in touch with the partner. So she introduced me to one of the partners there in New York. And within 3 weeks, I had made that career change real quick. So it was a very, very quick change. And it was global mobility wasn't something that I was really familiar with early on, right? It was just tax to me. It was just a part of tax. But it was a good opportunity. And then when I started working there, I really enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the culture and I enjoyed the work. It wasn't just strictly numbers. It was a lot of other stuff that was going on besides the numbers. So I think that's what really geared me towards it and made me really develop a passion as time went on for it. Really enjoyed it. So that's pretty much how I got into it. I would say this was over 10 years ago. And now look at me. Now, I've been doing this for over 10 years and I absolutely love it. Love speaking to my clients, love speaking to my coworkers. It's a very niche field, right? So a lot of people don't know about it. But once you delve in it for such a long time, you really learn the ins and outs, and you meet so many people of so many different backgrounds, right? It's such a cultural profession. I feel you'll meet people from all over the world, and if you get the opportunity, you could take assignments yourself, right, in various countries. So you really get to see different places for a longer period of time. So I really, really enjoyed the aspect of it.
That is an awesome story, and I must commend you for just that 3 week turnaround time of you have this career and then you just completely pivot. What I guess what was that feeling like? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Joyful?
I would say joyful. I don't really get scared of too much in life, to be quite honest. Take life as it comes. So really nothing that scares me or intimidates me. But it was, so early when you're so young, right, and you're starting at a Big Four again, right, your nerves do rack up a little bit, right, because you don't know anything compared to your peers at that point. But just the excitement and the warmth that the team, when I joined, had for me, and, they really wanted to teach me, really wanted to invest in me. I think that really eased any of the nerves that I had, right, walking into a new job. I was surrounded by a good group of people who I knew would teach me a lot and what I needed to know to continue my career in the path where I wanted it to be, right? When I joined the Big Four, my goal was always to be a partner, right? That's what we do in accounting, right? In Big Four, you dream big. When I think I had my first discussion with my performance manager, she's like, where do you see yourself going? And I was like, I want to be partner. And she was a senior manager, and she's like, I'm not even partner. I've been doing this for like 25 years. And I'm like, that's the different paths that we're on, right? You've been doing it for 25 years. I'm just starting, but that's the goal that I have, is to, eventually make it to there. That's why I joined accounting, was to make it to partner. So really no nerves, I would say, after that initial, shock of joining a Big Four and meeting new people. But it was overall great.
So when you initially start this change and you enter the global mobility field, what were some of the resources or potential industry leaders that you tapped into to learn more about global mobility and everything that it entails?
Absolutely. So I was like a sponge with my partners and my directors within the firm, just trying to see how they carved out their path, what they learned, who they would get in touch with. And they always dealt with CEOs, CFOs, HR managers, global mobility managers. And they would always tell me, make a good connection with them and just learn about their company, learn about their program, because every program is so different. And they said, you're going to be working with so many different companies while you're here. So we just said, we advise you to learn as much as you can about the differences between global mobility, between companies itself. You're going to learn the technical aspects of, tax and everything along the way. But, really learning about your clients, what they do, what their needs are, is going to be really important for you as you look to develop your career. So I think as I was going to like client meetings, I always talk to the CEOs, the CFOs that I would meet with, right, and really learn about them and find out what they want for the best interest of their company. And I think just learning more and more about different companies and how things operate really give me a holistic view about global mobility. It wasn't just one way, right? Like one company does it this way, another company does it this way. This company has this policies. It's totally different, right? So the more people that I spoke with, I think the more that I learned. And then I would say I was kind of a nag as an associate. I would just run, I would go to my manager's office or all the time, and I had questions or message them on Teams, right? And if something I wasn't sure about, I had no hesitancy. And my buddy, when I joined, like they gave everyone a buddy, he always used to tell me, the more you ask, the better you're going to be. Like, don't be shy. He's like, the people who come in and just sit at their desk and try to figure things out and waste time, they really don't make it too far. He's like, just come to me anytime you have questions, even if you don't want to go to your manager, you don't want to look bad because you're asking so many questions. Just come to me and just ask me whatever you need. And me and him developed a really good brotherhood. As I was working there, we started playing basketball together. I met his family, he met my family. So it was really like a comfort between me and him. And he was one of those people who was very willing to share his knowledge. And sometimes when you go in the corporate world, some people aren't like that, right? They want to keep everything to themselves. It's all about competition, right? But he was one of those genuine individuals who would take the time to invest in me, teach me what he knows, teach me the tricks, teach me whatever I could learn. And he knew I was very receptive to like feedback and learning. So I feel like he felt his time wasn't being wasted. And I obviously felt my time wasn't being wasted. So just all the information and the resources that he provided to me was invaluable. Until this day, we stay in touch. He came to my wedding. I'm going to be going to his wedding. Like it's like really, really cool how just that small little work interaction that we thought it would be in the beginning turned into like a lifelong brotherhood kind of thing.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. One thing, Shiv, that I've been, I guess, like in awestruck of your career. I remember when we were first introduced, and we were chatting. You've been involved in building global mobility programs from the ground up a few times now. I guess can you just walk us through on like what have been your biggest rewards and learnings from those experiences, and like how do you build a global mobility program from the ground up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say my biggest reward is that I became a partner, right? As I was doing this through my career, and also helping firms, right? Like I've joined firms where they didn't have any global mobility experience, any background, any real employees that did global mobility. So joining these types of firms and like doing the marketing, doing the sales, doing the presentations, building the fee sheets, the collateral for clients. I mean, it was a lot of stuff that gave me independence to do it the way I want to do it, based on my experience with bigger programs that I worked with in my earlier on in my career with the bigger firms. So I think really falling back on my experiences and what I've learned really helped me build these types of programs for firms. And then also, I think tapping into my resources, right? I never built anything on my own. It was always a collective effort with people who I would hire, right? Who I trusted, who I knew would get the job done with me. And bringing them over and trusting them to do what they have to do while I do what I have to do. And I think it was really a collaborative effort from the beginning. Like I would always be the one who starts things, kicks things off, and then bringing more and more people in who buy into it, and then building it from the ground up and doing things the way we want to do it. Because I would always complain about in the beginning when I worked at other firms, like, oh, they're wasting so much time doing this. Oh, they're wasting so much time doing that. If I could do it my way, I wouldn't be doing this, right? So I think having that flexibility to do things the way I wanted to really helped me build efficient programs, right, which were really, really successful. And then I think when I met with clients, right, who didn't even know about global mobility, right, they're looking to, delve into this global space, global workforce, right? And they really have no clue what they're getting into, whether it's tax issues, employee issues, payroll issues, right? They have no clue, but being able to educate these individuals on what I've learned, right, and what should be important to them, I think really played a big part in building successful programs for both the firm that I work with and clients, right? As clients look to get global, right, they need global mobility, right? It's pretty simple, right? They need policies in place, they need procedures in place, they need the right people in place, right? The key stakeholders who have to buy into it. And then you need the right vendors in place, right? Who you could lean on to get the job done for you as your employees are going overseas or as you're expanding your business. So I think being able to help them genuinely in a way that I felt benefited their company, right, and putting the right procedures, the policies in place really was valuable to them, because we would cut out a lot of the stuff that we didn't think was needed, right, in traditional programs that we used to see early on, right. If we didn't think it was valuable, right, we wouldn't go with it. And I would tell the client the same thing. If this isn't something that you think is going to benefit your employee, you don't have to do it, right? You don't have a formal policy yet. We're drafting the policy. We're making it from the bottom up. Let's put in the policy what you think is needed for both you and your employees. And I think helping these clients really give me a sense of satisfaction, because I knew I was actually helping these people like build something that they're going to use for years to come. Of course, you're going to make updates during the process, right, as things evolve. As we'll talk about more, as things evolve in global mobility, you have to update your procedures, your processes, your policies, and your employees' needs. But I think just having that flexibility and having a good team around me always and support from leadership really helped me build great programs from the bottom up.
Yes. So what you mentioned that when you're getting to know clients and asking them, maybe there are some aspects of a program that they potentially don't need because they're maybe reflected, they're old. What are just some of those basic or maybe high level ideas that you wouldn't recommend, or when you're working with a new client, being like, let's look at something else instead?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of clients always start, you have to, like, if you're looking to expand your business overseas, you have to have someone there for a certain number of years, right? That one dedicated individual has to go there for 3 years and help you build this out from the beginning. But I don't think that's really the case. I think you have to have the right people there, and it could be multiple people, right? It could be multiple people who have to be on the ground and help you expand your company. But it doesn't have to be for a fixed certain amount of time, right? Typically, people would be like, "Oh, you have to be there 3 years, 5 years," but what I've seen is over the years, like, if you could get the job done in 6 months to a year, why extend it, right? Well, there's no need for it yet. I mean, typical long-term policies are 3 years and beyond. But I think in today's workforce, right, getting someone to go somewhere for 3 years is going to be tough, right? Just because of the flexibility that people want and they demand from their employers. They'll go to 10 different places over 3 years, right? But getting them to one specific place for those 3 years might be tough in today's day and age, I feel. Because what I've seen when I talk to employees is they want flexibility. They want to go places, not just one place, not even their home, not even at their home, right? They just want to keep traveling and going various places and, helping the company in the process, right? So I think the biggest mistake that I've seen over years is just companies thinking you need a dedicated period of time of minimum 3 years to get things going for their company. But in this day and age, I think it could be done a lot quicker if you have the right people in place, you have the right advisors in place. You could really make moves a lot quicker and shorten that window of period and start making money for your company.
Definitely. What in your opinion, Shiv, what are the essential building blocks of building a global mobility program in 2024?
So I would say proper planning is the first and foremost that's needed, right? Talking about building a global mobility program is different than actually doing it. And planning up front is, I think, what is super important, is making sure you get involved, the key stakeholders within the company who have the power to make decisions, right? A lot of times mobility runs through either HR or finance, right? And getting those people involved at the onset, right? Because they're the ones who are going to approve the costs for these assignments. So you want to make sure that they're involved right at the onset, because a lot of these individuals, they don't really know what entails a global mobility program or an assignment, right? So educating them up front, like, why are these costs being incurred, right? Why are they needed? Why do you have to give these types of allowances to your employees, right? What's the reasoning behind it, right? Because if you go to a CEO or CFO and you say, I'm sending someone overseas and we're going to pay 100 grand in housing for them, right? They're going to be like, why can't we just hire someone locally, right, to do the same job that we're sending this person for? And at times you could, right? Those are discussions that are had, right? If you have a good workforce out there, right, or you have good talent, talent planning people who could find the right resources, that might be a good thing, right? But a lot of times you have people in one country who have the knowledge to go expand in another country, your actual business, right? They have that knowledge, they have that experience. So making sure that these individuals are properly planned for, right? They're given the right allowances, they're given the right money, right? They have the resources that they need to be successful at their job as they're expanding your business. I think that's very important because a lot of times what I've seen is we go through these mobility discussions with companies and the wrong people are sitting at the table, right? So we're going to have these discussions with a few people, and then they take it up to the CEO or the CFO, head of finance, and then the costs are not getting approved, right? But bringing these people in right at the onset, right? I think it pays dividends in terms of saving time, right? And it gives them an idea of where their money is actually going, right? And dealing with someone who's actually traveled, right? Who's done an assignment or who's been a part of mobility is super helpful because they know about the issues that arise, right? And the comfort that's needed to go to a different country, right? And get comfortable and learn the different culture, right? And once you get those people involved, it's a lot easier getting expenses approved, getting costs approved, right? And then plans actually move forward and stuff getting put on hold because the biggest thing for companies is costs, right? Are we going to get the return on investment as we expand our company? So having the right people there is super, super important.
Definitely, definitely. Would you say that this is building a mobility program from the ground up is a multi-year endeavor?
Yeah, I would say at least a year at minimum it takes, right? But as programs evolve, it takes years and years, right? For
Hmm.
things to really get perfected to where you want it to. So definitely, I don't think it could be something that's done overnight. Um, and the more time you invest in it and the more thought that goes into it, the better program you're going to build. Is
Right.
simply what it gets down to. It's not something you could rush, right? It's not something I need to build a mobility program in a month. Probably not going to happen, right? Because
Right.
you need to get the right people involved. Like I said, the right vendors, the right advisors. So it's going to take time for all that to play out.
Yeah, I guess speaking of vendors, what are your thoughts on, vendor management and finding those right vendors, whether it's for tax, for employee housing, for immigration? What are your thoughts and recommendations for those and just finding the right vendors?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many different vendors out there, whether it's tax, payroll, housing, relocation, right? I think you have to find the one who you trust, right? Is the biggest thing. You have to trust your vendors and you have to trust that they have your best interests in mind, not their interest, right? Because as a vendor, what are you trying to do? You're trying to sell your service and make money, right? But also, that shouldn't be your sole reason, right, to have a client. It should actually be in the best interest of your client, what you're looking to do for them. How could you save them money, right, as part of them being your client, right? Whether they're my client or they're someone else's client, what could I do different that's going to actually help the company? What's going to save them money? What's going to put their visions into actual place, right? Make them move forward, right? Because some companies come with the vision and then a vendor is going to totally steer you in a different direction because they think that's what's needed based on what they've done in the past. But that's really not the case. I think you have to listen to your client and see what they're looking for, and you make adjustments for them, right? And you put processes, policies in place based on what their needs and wants are, right? It's not a glove that fits all, right? It's going to be different sizes of glove for each company, and I think the biggest mistake I've seen is companies going to vendors and dropping their vision based on what the vendor says. Now, obviously, there's going to be things that are standard, right? Certain tax implications, certain tax rules have to be done. Payroll has to be run a certain way, right? So there's going to be some basics that need to be done, but there's so much flexibility within programs. I think that clients need to understand that just finding a trusted advisor is your most important thing because that's going to make it easy for both the employer and the employee, right? And if you have both people happy, you're going to have a successful program, right? If you only have your employer happy because your vendor is favoring the employer based on policies and procedures, then your employees are going to be unhappy. And then vice versa. If your vendor starts working with the employees for their tax obligations, right, and they start putting policies and procedures in place that favor the employee, not the employer, then your employer is going to be unhappy, right? So it's just making sure that you have that trusted advisor who's going to look at it holistically and do what's right for the company and the employee as a whole, and always be transparent, right? Upfront with anything, any costs, any advice that you're giving, you have to be absolutely transparent. At the end of the day, even if you don't sell your service, I always say you might not sell your service, but you have to make sure that your client or your prospect's happy at the end of the day. Whether they take your service or not, they should take your advice and move forward with it if you're giving good, intelligent advice. I've had clients that I've won, and I've had clients that I've lost, obviously, right? But even the ones that I've lost, it's it could be for various reasons. It could be our pricing is too high, right? But I don't think I've ever lost a client just based on me interacting with them. I think I've always had a good comfort and a good understanding of them. And then they've just chosen to go in a different direction, whether it's price or there's technology at a different company that's better than ours. But I've always tried to understand my clients and what they want, and I think that's really paid dividends for me, building good relationships with my clients.
What are your thoughts? Or let's say I have an established global mobility program, mid-sized or larger company. What are some things that, in your opinion, these teams should be looking at to constantly make their programs better?
I think evolving with technology is, I mean, AI is out there, right? And I think as global mobility programs evolve, we have to figure out how AI is going to play a part in it, right? And I think it will play a huge part in it because it's going to automate so many things that we have people sitting behind a computer doing, right, manually. So I think just evolving with technology and evolving with trends. So for trends, let me give you an example, right? You look pre-pandemic, right? The biggest, you had a specific set of assignments. You had short term, you had long term, you had business travel, right? Now post-pandemic, it is, I would say it's totally different, right? You have remote workers, you have hybrid workers, right? You have workation that comes into play, right? Then you still have your typical short term and long term and business travel, right? But with the evolvement with global mobility over the past just 3 to 4 years, right? We've seen different policy types get brought up now. And like I said, remote and hybrid is probably the two most prevalent ones that I see in this day and age. Um, and companies always call me, I have an employee and they're working in Switzerland. What do I do? My first question is okay, do you have a remote policy in place? And a lot of times is, oh no, we don't even know. Like we have a short term policy, we have a long term policy. What do you mean remote policy, right? And then we help them build that. And I think that's where the future is going, right? Like I've said, hybrid and remote work is the future, right? It just got sped up due to the pandemic. Everyone knew, right? Days of going to the office 5 days a week are not there, right? No one really wants to do it anymore, right? Getting someone into the office 2 to 3 days a week is more logical. But I mean, when you turn off the world for like a year, right, and people are working from home, and people get comfortable doing that, it's going to be hard to get them there 5 days a week. Of course, there's going to be jobs where you have to be on site, right, like manufacturing plants, automotive plants, right. You guys have to be there every day of the week because you're building specific things, right? But there's so many jobs that are flexible these days that I think companies have to make sure that they're evolving with their employees and they're evolving with technology, and they're putting these kind of policies in place, right? And when employees want that flexibility, you could lean on that policy. Okay, you want to go to work in this country for a certain amount of time. Okay, you're going to go on this hybrid policy. You're going to go on this remote workforce policy. And I think as companies, if they continue to do that, they're going to have way higher retention with their employees because their employees are going to see their companies evolving as the world is evolving, as the workforce is evolving. So that's something that I recommend is just be open to being agile with your company and making the improvements.
Yeah, that one example that you brought up about employer has an employee working in Switzerland and the employer doesn't know. Like there's so many potential implications right there. Immigration, are you on the right visa? And even then, like that, then you have the tax and everything. So I think that's just a real good real world example right there. But Shiv, I want to really quickly go back to something you mentioned about AI in global mobility. We're I want to say almost 2 years into this, AI being more prevalent everywhere. So I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on where things stand with the industry's adoption of AI, and where do you see AI and global mobility going? You mentioned, replacing some tasks, but do you see it, I guess, how do you see it evolving?
Yeah, absolutely. I think AI is the future in many industries. I think in global mobility, it's going to play a part, but it's not going to be the be all end all, right? There's going to be certain things where we could save times on, whether it's tax return automation, payroll automation, right? Even immigration. I mean, immigration, you always need someone to give a final look, right? Because it's legal, right? But there's going to be a lot of applications that could be done automatically through AI, right? You feed some stuff in a questionnaire and automatically applications get done, right? Tracking of travel, right, could be done automatically, right? Payroll on a monthly basis. You don't need someone reconciling that. You don't need someone reconciling that. You could have AI, run an algorithm, run some kind of program, and do payroll properly. Of course, you'll need someone to spot check it here and there, but AI is going to save so much time on manual processes that we've been used to doing over the past several years. And I mean, if you look at the stock market, right, AI companies are just booming over the past 1 to 2 years, as you mentioned, right? We're about 2 years in, and some people are saying, this might be the top or the bottom. I mean, I think this is just the beginning, right? I mean, you have one of the world's most genius men in Elon Musk, right, who's an AI freak, right? He has robots running around in his factories, and I think people like him who really appreciate what AI could do in the long haul for not just companies but for the world in general, right? I think in mobility, it's going to evolve. It's going to make things so much easier, so much more streamlined, right? And I mean, you might have a cutback in jobs at times, right? Because what are you really doing? You're replacing manpower, right, with artificial intelligence. But there's always going to be work that needs to be done, right? But you can't get left behind with the evolving world, right? You have to adapt to it, or you're going to get left behind. Basically, is what it's coming down to, because every company is moving towards AI, I feel, in terms of reporting, in terms of doing compliance. It's just the way it is. And there's no difference in mobility. I mean, you have to jump onto it, and there's technologies out there that really enforce and make AI really prevalent for clients and vendors. And I think people have to take advantage of it.
I really appreciate the examples that you brought up with how AI can help employers and their mobility programs as well as employees. You mentioned payroll, checking immigration forms, things of that sort. Because I feel like in the midst of this AI craze, sometimes it gets lost on what the actual tools and potential benefits are. And we always we jump ahead to AI is going to replace everything, when in reality it's kind of one of those, it will allow everyone to work smarter and not harder. So instead of someone, you mentioned, manually check in payroll, that time could be spent strategizing or doing something else with regards to finance. So I guess if you were to put on, in your ideal world, if you were to put on your AI crystal ball hat, what ideally would you like to see from these current as well as potential future AI technologies?
I think you nailed it, right? Making people work smarter, not harder, right? I think if you use the AI in the right way it should be used, you're going to save a lot of time and a lot of administrative tasks. And I think that's what people need to take advantage of, right? They can't look at it as a threat to their job. They have to look at it as an efficiency to their workload, basically, right? I think some people look at AI like, oh, it's going to replace my job. I have robots. You go to restaurants, right? You see robots serving you food, right? A lot at times, right? So, I mean, in that regard, yeah, I mean, it might cut back on waiters and waitresses, right? But those people could do something else now, right? It's not like, okay, it's going to totally cut out the industry, because it's not going to happen, right? So I think people not taking it as a threat, but really taking it for what it is, and working smarter, not harder, right? Because we only have a limited number of time in a day, right, to get the job done. And we always complain time is an issue, right? We don't have enough time to do this, time to do that. But if you adopt the AI tools that you have available to you, you have time to do a lot of other things that you didn't think you could do, right? Because AI is going to cut the time to do what you were doing in half, at least in half, right? I mean, we've seen things where AI cuts the time by like 90%, right, in certain tasks, right? Just by completing forms or automating tax returns or completing someone's travel, right? Simple things, right? It really helps people out, and not and being open to it is really just going to help you. And I think and also educating yourself about it, right? The more you can learn about AI, the more you know what it could do for you and your company, I think is going to make you smarter and make you become more educated overall.
Definitely. Shiv, I want to keep moving on. I know we all have some busy Fridays this summer. So I just want to kind of zoom out and just talk to you a little bit about the global mobility industry as a whole. So I guess what are your current thoughts on the state of global mobility in, I guess, yeah, this July of 2024, knowing that 2025 is already somehow right around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the field has evolved so much over the past couple of years, and I think it's still evolving, right, based on employees and employers' needs. And it's going to continue to evolve, right? I mean, what's going on today is going to be different than what goes on 5 years, because if you ask someone 5 years ago, where do you see mobility now? They wouldn't have predicted this, I feel, right? They wouldn't have
Yeah.
predicted employees wanting to go to work so many different countries throughout the year, right? I think it was more traditional at that point. We're going to send someone on a 6-month assignment or 1 year or 2 year or 3 year. I think now it's just opened the floodgates for people to be more flexible about where they work, right? And it's made employers update their policies, right? Update their procedures and become more flexible for their employees, because it's not just one or two people, it's the industry as a whole, I feel, right? Me and you right now, right? You're probably working from home. I'm probably working from home at this time, right? But we don't know where home is, right? You could be in Mexico, you could be in wherever it is, right? But you're still getting your job done. So I think in the field of mobility, I think employers have to be cognizant of that employees want to go wherever they want to go, and they're still going to get the job done, right? We're going to work, we're going to make stuff happen. It's just at the comfort and flexibility of where we want it. And I think that's just the future now is how it's going to be. And I think that's how mobility is, right? We give the employees their flexibility, and they produce the way they want to produce, how they should be producing.
Yeah.
And I think it's evolved so much over the past several years.
How should we reconcile what you're saying right now with employees wanting that flexibility, whether it's working from home, working remotely in another country on some type of remote work visa, or et cetera, those short-term assignments, long-term assignments, with what we're seeing in the news with on CNBC, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, with them reporting more companies implementing these return to office policies and kind of maybe cracking down a little bit more. I think I just saw a story, I think I want to say like a week or two ago, where I won't name the name specifically, but we could infer the largest online retailer that starts with an A was kind of cracking down on employees just coming in for like coffee days. So I guess like, yeah, how do you I love what you're saying, because I'm a big believer in hybrid work, but how do we hear what you're saying with what we're seeing in the news?
So, I mean, you're always going to have people who are resistant to change, right? They feel just because they can't get the job done anywhere, they feel that their employees can't get the job done anywhere. I think that's the biggest thing right now is you have a new generation who wants to do things a certain way, and then you have that older generation which is stuck in doing things the way that they've been brought up, right? No one is wrong, right? The older generation, that's how you've been brought up through the workforce. That's what you're used to. So that's what you want to implement to your employees. The newer generation is, we've started like this, we want to continue like this, we enjoy it like this. I think the companies that force their employees to come back might succeed in the short term, right? They might get their employees to come back in the short term, but you're not going to have happy employees. These employees will come back to the office, whatever, 3, 4, 5 days a week, right? But while they're doing that, they're going to be looking for another job that offers that flexibility. I've seen it when I've talked to clients many, many times, right? They've a lot of tech companies, a lot of financial services companies, they're asking their employees to come back, right, into the office. And as I speak to these clients, they're saying, this person gave their resignation, this person gave their resignation. And where are these people going to? They're going to companies which offer flexibility, right? Because there's not every company that's asking you to come back. There's some companies, right? But there's also a good majority that are also saying, we'll offer that hybrid, that flexible workforce that you as employees are looking for. So I think employees are just going to make that jump in this day and age. I think The days where employees are scared, right, are gone. I think the employee has become empowered over the past several years, and they're not giving up that power, right? I mean, the employees that I've worked with over the past several years, I've always told them, flexibility is important, right? You have a life outside of work. It's very important for you to take care of that life. Just get the job done wherever you are getting the job done, right? But at least let me know where you're going, because I want to make sure my firm or my company, right, is also set up properly, right? We're not creating any tax issues or any payroll issues based on where you're working, right? And you go for a day or two or a week, it's not going to really make a big deal. But if you're going to the UK for 6 months, let me know that you're going to the UK. Let's get this approved and have the right procedures in place for us as a firm also, to make sure we're not tripping any rules or messing anything up. So I think that's really what it is. Employers have to listen to what their employers are saying.
Lovely, love it. Shiv, what are your if you were to summarize, what would you say are maybe some of the biggest challenges currently facing, or in the global mobility industry? Just my 2 cents very quickly. I remember a few years ago, sustainability was being talked about a lot. So just curious to hear your thoughts on what you think are some of the biggest challenges.
I think shortage of talent is probably a big one I see. Not finding the right talent in the right place is something that I've seen, right? Not having people willing to go to certain places as you're looking to expand your business is probably a big thing. So I'd say talent shortfall is probably the biggest thing that I've heard from companies is we don't have someone where we could send to this country, or we're looking to expand in this country. We don't have the right people in place, and the people we have, they're not looking to go there, right? So I think just finding that talent is super important. And I think it all boils back down again to your policy. What are you offering in your policy? What's the incentive for these employees to go to these various countries, right? You want to retain your talent and you want to make it a positive experience. Even as these individuals, they go to these assignments, right? You want to make sure that they're comfortable where they are, because if they don't have a good experience, they're not going to do it again. And it's a good chance that they're going to end up leaving your company. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. I mean, I was reading a stat, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago, where it's like an unhappy person coming off an assignment is like 70% more likely to leave the company than someone who had a good experience with their assignment and had everything done the right way. That individual is likely to stay over 90% of the time, right? So I think that stat really stuck out to me. And when I speak to clients, I always talk about it like, make sure you do what's right for your employee, because if you want to retain them for the long term, we have to make this a positive experience for them, because we're putting them outside of their comfort zone. So as we do that, let's try to make everything as easy as possible and seamless as possible, because they're already going to be uncomfortable in a new country, in a new location, adjusting to a new culture.
Got it. Final question for you, Shiv, and then I'll turn it over to you to talk more about your current organization, anything you got coming up. What advice would you give to someone early on, or maybe just starting their career in global mobility?
Yeah, I would say just be very, very curious and learn as much as you can early on in your career. Your technical skills are gonna improve over time, right? With experience, by reading the IRS publications, or doing the actual work, right? That's gonna come with time, and it's not something you could gain overnight, because it takes years and years of experience. I mean, even in my career, I'm still learning to this day. There's gonna be stuff that comes up that I had no clue about, and I learn, right? It's a daily basis within tax, with new rules, new regulations you're going to learn. But I think early on in someone's career, like, just learn and be as curious as you can, ask as many questions as you can, and don't be afraid to be uncomfortable, right? Because I think the best successes come is when someone is uncomfortable in a situation, they have their backs against the wall, they're going to produce in a certain type of way, right? And then also don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think the biggest thing in corporate culture is you can't make a mistake, right? Oh, what if I make a mistake? What's going to happen? What's my boss going to say, right? There's only a couple of fields where you really can't make a mistake. One is medicine, right? Because you have someone's life in your hand, right? If you're doing surgery, you can't really mess up, right? Or like law enforcement, right? You can't make mistakes in those, like, you shouldn't be making. I mean, obviously people make mistakes, but like in a corporate world where you're playing with numbers, right? Things could always be fixed, right? I'm not encouraging people making mistakes. Of course not, right? But I'm saying it's okay to make a mistake, right? You're going to learn from it. Just make sure you don't make that same mistake over. But if you go into an atmosphere or into like a work environment where you feel you can't make a mistake, first of all, you're going to be super stressed and you're not going to produce the way you could produce. Um, when I was early on in my career, I would not be afraid to take on something new, right? I always wanted to do something new early on because I wanted to keep learning and learning and learning, right? If I do the same task 10 times, there's a good chance I've already perfected that task and I've learned about it, right? But being uncomfortable and doing something that I don't know about and learning about it is where I think I grew the most, right? I started out in IT, right? Then I did mobility and I was doing mostly tax, right? I was advising on tax, but then I delved into the payroll side of things. I delved into immigration side of things, right? Because I was super curious about all these different aspects about mobility, right? Now I could talk about mobility as a whole, whether it's tax, payroll, immigration, legal, right? And I think that was just me being curious and talking to various individuals within companies, right? And learning about them, learning about the different facets about it, right? Because I don't only want to know about what I do, right? I want to know about what everyone does, right? Because it gives me, as a trusted advisor, the best way to give a client an informed decision in all aspects. So that's what I always encourage young people when I speak, when I go to colleges and recruit, or when I'm mentors to other employees, right? I always tell them, just learn, learn, learn. Don't be scared to ask questions, because that's the only way you're gonna learn.
Love it. Love it. Well, Shiv, now's the time where the spotlight's on you. If you've ever watched or seen a few episodes of Hot Ones, at the end, this light's on you, that light's on you, this light. So tell us what you got going on, your current organization, the things that you guys are doing, and all that good stuff.
Absolutely, yep. So I mean, our organization, Aprio, we have grown. I think we're the fastest growing accounting firm over the past couple of years, top 25 accounting firm, and we do pretty much everything from accounting, tax, advisory, auditing, you name it, we get it done. Wealth management, right? The firm is super, super high growth mode, right? As we've been over the past few years, we've really opened up a lot of service lines, a lot of different avenues, a lot of different work streams that we do now, right? And we have offices all over the U.S. We have offices overseas as well. So we are a global company. We have offices in the Philippines, in Colombia, and we're going to expand various places as well. So I think any type of help that's really needed is something that our firm could offer. My practice specifically, mobility, we offer end-to-end mobility services, from planning at the onset to planning at the end of an assignment, right? We could give clients a holistic overview, whether it's tax, payroll, and even immigration. We work with many immigration firms that could offer immigration, and we make sure that our clients have everything taken care of, right? You come to us with a problem or a question, we're going to provide you a complete solution. And I think our firm as a whole, that's what we pride ourselves on, right? We're not the biggest firm, right? We're not a big four firm, right? But we're also not the smallest firm. But I think where we really stand out amongst other firms is our client service. We're always going to do what's best for the client, and that's one of our fundamentals. We actually have 31 fundamentals as a firm, and one of them is do what's best for your client, right? So even if it's at the short-term detriment of us, right, it's going to be whatever is best for our client in the long term, right? Whether we pick up the business or we don't pick up the business, that's really not what it comes down to. It really comes down to making sure we have a happy client at the end of the day. We did what's right for them, and they're doing what's needed for themselves. It's not really about us or selling things, right? We have so many different services. We're gonna sell our work one way or the other, right? But it's making sure that we have people who are happy with the service we provide and the type of service we provide. We make sure that no client goes to sleep unhappy, is what I always like to say, or at least we pride ourselves on that.
It's a great tagline. I love it.
Yes.
Actually, I lied. I do have one final question
Absolutely.
for you. Very at the start of our conversation, you mentioned when you first started your career back when you were a developer and then moved over to mobile. You were traveling a lot. You maximizing credit card points and airline miles. Are you Team Chase, Team Amex? What's your credit card or airline of choice
Yep. So
to get the most out of your travel?
absolutely, Team Amex, Platinum Amex is the best card to have. You get to go to lounges, you get to do pretty much everything, and they give you so many rebates. Giving a plug for Amex, I mean they should hire me. They should give me some kind of spotlight. And then credit airline is Delta. I loved it. Fewest delays, and that's just locally. Overseas, Singapore Airlines is probably one of the best. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. Well, Shiv, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. Really appreciate the time and just being able to kind of pick your brain on global mobility and just learn more from you. Seeing as you are a wealth of experience building programs from the ground up and you bring a lot of insights to the table. So really appreciate you sharing your story and sharing your insights on this episode of Immigration and Mobility Decoded.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And always great talking to you, Eric. It was really nice. And I wish everyone a great weekend ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next episode.
So, take care. Bye-bye.